Last time on Suit Up,
we cut out the foam parts, used contact cement to glue all the parts together. Then, I showed you how to make V-cuts and V-grooves. Used a rotary tool to feather the center line's edges. And then, we cut out the jaw parts and finished gluing the helmet together.
Jimmy, what'd you do? The Mr. Best bar is really tasty. I love it so much. It's all I ever want to do. Here's a code. You can't read it. That's all right. The only thing better than this Mr. Beast bar is starting up another episode of Suit Up. Let's go! I did the wrist thingy.
Hello, nice lady who's also a robot. Hello, touch.
Hi, I'm Dustin, and I've been making tokusatsu props and costumes for over 10 years. The costume work I did led to some pretty interesting opportunities. Now, I want to share my tips and help guide you while you make your own props and costumes. If you're ready to make some cool stuff, then welcome to Suit Up.
Okay, so really quickly, we need to Dremel down all of these edges where these parts meet, except for on the center line. So just all these side parts, a little bit around the ears, and a little bit around all these edges. And then the last thing we're going to be Dremeling is just around these eyes and a little bit down on the side of the tears. So just like we did with that center line, all we're doing is feathering and breaking down a little bit. We're going to come back in with some Kwik Seal, lay it down all over this, and then we're going to Plasti-Dip. All right, let's get to it.
While I'm doing this, I'm making sure all I need to do is just break up some of the glue on the top and make sure these two edges are nice and even. Once I have them nice and even, I make sure I do one more pass to make sure it's super smooth, and I move on to the next scene.
Okay, so as you can see, I Dremeled down one of these edges. It's a lot like flatter, and that's okay. We want that because we're going to be coming over this again with some Kwik Seal, and it's going to fill up all that area. All right, we're going to do this again on all these edges. Here we go.
So now I'm cleaning up every single edge, and that goes for the ear parts too. If you're really not comfortable with doing that, you can always smooth them out later with the Kwik Seal, unless they're sticking out like really far. If you really don't want to mess up your parts and you want something a little bit safer, use a sanding stick or some sandpaper.
Okay, so I got the eyes all feathered up, and I got the ears all feathered up really nicely. Now I'm gonna come through and clean up all my mistakes and all these edges with some Kwik Seal. So if you made any chips, dings, dents, or anything like that you're really nervous about, it's okay. We can fill those in with some Kwik Seal. We'll be right back. This is my heat gun. There are many others like it, but this one's mine. Now here's what I like to do. I like to turn this on to high heat. Mine has a special temperature that you can set it to. It's usually good between 450 and 550 for EVA foam. You do not need to do a lot when you make passes on this. You need to heat seal this before we can Kwik Seal and add other glues and Plasti-Dip. It seals all the pores, so then there's gonna be no bubbles when we go to Plasti-Dip this. So I'm gonna Kwik Seal this, or heat seal this really fast with my heat gun. Make quick passes. You just want enough to where you can see the pores tighten up, and once you see them tighten up, move on. Do not stay in one place too long. You will burn your foam. Keep moving. A hair dryer won't cut it either, so no hair dryers. Just quick movements. Get it all done really fast. Okay, here we go.
Now, if you don't have a heat gun, there is one other method I could recommend, but I strongly don't recommend it because if you're not an adult, it's really not smart to do. It's called the stovetop method. You throw on one of the burners, you let it get hot, and you wave your part over it and let the heat seal up all the pores. Although I do not recommend this because it's not a very smart thing to do, and only do it if you're an adult. Okay, is that good, Mr. Lawyer Man? He's shaking his head. Okay, we're good.
Yeah, that's looking good. Okay, now that we have all these edges done, we're gonna quick seal. So here's my quick seal. It's old. It's actually dried out a little bit at the end, so it's gonna be a little bit different than yours. Yours should be a lot cleaner, a lot more fresh. Regardless, they both should still work the same. And you can see that I've had this tube for a while. This tube only cost me about, I want to say it was like $2.50 at a discount store. I want to say Ollie's. Anyways, good stuff. You're gonna lay down a really thin line, a very thin line, and then you're gonna come through with some dish soap or some hand soap. If you use dish soap, 1 small drop and some water, mix it around real quick. That should do. If you use hand soap, you use 1 big squirt and then mix it around. What you're gonna do is you're gonna dip your finger in this solution and you're gonna rub your finger over it. When you're done working with this stuff, wash your hands really, really good. Get all this stuff off of you, okay? It's okay to touch, but it's not good to eat. So wash your hands. All right, I don't need the rulers. I'm gonna move the ruler out of the way. And I'm just gonna go through and line all of this stuff, all of it. And when I say all of it, I mean like down the sides of all this too. You really wanna get quick seal all down every single gap that you're seeing. Depending how deep your gap is, you may have to do multiple passes of quick seal. I like to do thin, quick passes because then that's gonna dry a lot faster. And yeah, you can do quick seal one more time after we Plasti-Dip, but you cannot just paint over that. You have to put some more Plasti-Dip over that, so you'll have to do multiple coats of Plasti-Dip. So you can fudge it, but don't fudge it too much. And also, it's really hard to get rid of this stuff, so try to smooth it out. If you leave a big glob and it stays there and it dries, it's gonna be hard to get off. Okay, all that being said, let's go.
What I did here was lay down a nice thin strip of the silicone, and then I dipped my finger and just smoothed all of it out. I used a paper towel to clean up any of the excess on the sides. You don't want to get it so wet that it's dripping. If you get it to the part where it's wet and dripping, you could end up getting drips from the silicone. It'll show up in the final coat, and we don't want that.
All right, so I may or may not be done just yet. Now, just to cover a couple things, make sure that you've got these lines as smooth as you can get them. You took any of the excess water with some of the quick seal and you spread it out evenly across. See how there's kind of like more and more streaks of it? Yeah, I did that so I can move some of the water around. Now, if there's just too much water, way too much excess, be sure to use your paper towel. Now, I tried my best to fill in all these gaps. I might have to fill in a couple other small things, but I think we're about ready to go. I have to wait for all this to dry. As soon as this is dried, though, we're going outside the Plasti-Dip. All right, so right here I have a can of black Plasti-Dip. It's been warmed up under a hot water bath. Dried up the can, and I'm shaking it vigorously. You really want to get this nice and warm before you use it. It'll make it come out a lot smoother. Now we're gonna do a couple passes on this. We just want to put 1 layer at a time. So we're gonna do 1 full pass, 1 full coat. Then we're gonna let dry. We're gonna do another coat. See if we like it after that point. If we don't, we're gonna do 1 more coat after that, and then we'll get started with painting. But this is super important. Now, with the paint that we're gonna end up using, you don't have to use Plasti-Dip. So if you are uncomfortable using any kind of spray adhesives or any kind of spray paints, you can skip this step, but that's up to you. Personally, I like to rubberize the outside of my helmets, so I'm gonna use this rubber Plasti-Dip spray. All right, so when we spray it, we're gonna spray and then we're gonna go overlap the last thing that we sprayed. Try not to spray too much in one place. We're doing just short, quick strokes, kind of like we're painting with a paintbrush, okay? Always shake your can after each spray too, all right? So if you've used it for a while, switch over.
And it was at this point that the wind decided to blow so hard that you can't hear anything for the rest of the video. So I'm gonna do my best to fill in the rest of the information for you. Isn't it funny? The one thing that powers up Kamen Rider ends up being the bane of my existence whenever I make costumes. Anyways, so this is Plasti-Dipping. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm overlapping ever so slightly and trying to build up nice glossy layer on the outside. It's gonna look glossy at the start. It'll come out to a nice matte finish later on. Make sure you're doing a slight 50% overlap each time. Now, if you look close, you might see some bumps and bubbles. That's okay. This will fill out and even out over time. It's self-leveling. It's okay. Also, you might need to Plasti-Dip this more than one time. That will fill up more later too, so try not to freak out. I would recommend after the first layer of Plasti-Dip, checking your areas where you quick sealed one more time. And if you like what you see, you can go ahead and move forward with more Plasti-Dipping. But if you don't like what you're seeing, now's the time to be fixing everything with some quick seal, letting it dry, and then coming back with the Plasti-Dip and going for your 1 to 2 more layers. I strongly recommend you go for at least 2 layers on anything you Plasti-Dip. Plasti-Dips are really strong, but it gets stronger as you add more to it. But it's not the strongest, but it's a great, great thing to keep your foam props nice and tough. And it's a great filler primer. So if you ever need something to fill up real quick and you also want to be able to paint on it immediately, Plasti-Dip's a great way to go. I also recommend leaving this outside and working with a respirator. I strongly recommend a respirator. If you don't have one, get one. And if you don't have one, work outside. Let this dry outside. Make sure it's not too humid outside either. If it's too humid outside, it'll be really hard for Plasti-Dip to dry appropriately. You want to be in a nice middle ground of anywhere from 50 to 70% humidity. Anything higher than 70 and it starts to get a little bit messy. Okay, I think that covers it. Let's go ahead and head back inside.
All right, so assuming you've done a couple layers of Plasti-Dip, and you've also done any more bits of Kwik Seal that you wanted to do, you should be ready for painting. Now, I want to make this very, very clear. I really, really, really hope you did not do the jaw piece yet. We're saving this for later. This has a lot more work that we actually have to do to it. I just wanted to help you guys get this Plasti-Dip stuff going, so then when you're done Plasti-Dipping this helmet, or as you're waiting for this Plasti-Dip to dry, you can be working on the rest of this part. So stay tuned. We're going to focus on finishing this dome part first. There is still a lot more to do with the jaw. So keep this jaw set to the side. As we're waiting for things for this to dry, I encourage you to go look at the other video and see how you work on this part. Okay? Cool. So yeah, set this to the side. We're gonna start painting. So for the sake of this segment, because I'm actually gonna be working with a lot of greens, we're gonna keep the green screen up for now. Yeah, sorry to break the illusion, everyone. We're working on a set right now, but this is the best we can do at the moment. I'm sure you understand. But anyways, yeah. This is a Matsuri mask I got when I was out in Tokyo. So if you take a really good look, it's got kind of like a silver kind of mint color to it. And the eyes are a nice deep red with a little bit of shine to it. Lots of silver on there. And the black parts are where we're going to be seeing out of. We'll worry about that a little bit later. So usually when we would paint things, I would use spray paint, but today we're going to use a different type of paint. But I still wanted to tell you guys about masking, because we might do a little bit of it. I still haven't quite decided how I want to do this just yet. I know what kind of paint I want to use, but we're not using spray paint. But if I was to use spray paint, eventually I would have to mask it off. Now, how do you mask a mask? Easy. Masking tape or blue tape, painter's tape. I would prefer you use painter's tape. It works a little bit nicer with the Kwik Seal or the Plasti-Dip. What you would do is, let's say you wanted to keep this whole stripe on the top black, you would cover it up with as much tape as possible, not like a ton to make like a big bridge or anything, just enough to cover it all nicely. Then you would paint all the sides and then remove the tape, and then hopefully you would have a bunch of clean lines surrounding the black stripe. It's a really cool process. We might do it here, we might not, but keep that in mind. Go look up the process of masking. It's a wonderful thing to learn, because if you want to go spray paint this, you're more than welcome to. It's not like you didn't just Plasti-Dip it. Now, if you didn't Plasti-Dip it, that's fine, because here's what you would do if you didn't Plasti-Dip it. We're going to be using FX paints, and these are really, really, really cool paints from Plaid. Plaid made these back in 2019, and I've been using them for the last couple of years, and they are awesome. I really like them a lot. It's a really high pigment glue mixed, or a really high pigment paint mixed with a glue and a elastomer. So it's got a nice bit of stretch to it. Now, if you didn't Plasti-Dip your helmet, but you did heat seal it, what I would recommend you do is use their primer. This primer is really, really good. It's a lot different than just throwing on like PVC glue or white glue like we know it. You know, Elmer's. So instead of using that, I would recommend you use this. And then after you've let that dry, do like 1 or 2 coats, thin coats. You don't even really need to wet your brush too much at all. I recommend having it a little bit damp, but you really don't need these to be super, super wet, because once you throw it on there, it's also self-leveling. So try not to put it on too rough. If you put it on super, super rough, it can break some of that self-leveling, but that's really good if you're doing like monster stuff. But if you're doing more smooth character helmets, go like really light with your brush strokes and really try to smooth it out as gently as possible. It'll flatten out and level itself out, and it'll look really, really nice. What's also good about it is it can fill a little bit of these gaps that we have. And Plasti-Dip is really good and Kwik Seal is really good, but there's some small parts that you'll just have some trouble getting. So yeah. So here's the paints that I recommend for this. All right, we're gonna be using chainmail, samurai sword. These names are really cool. Emerald. Okay, this one's actually good. It's a good name for it, because that's what it looks like. The primer, it's in clear. I'm just gonna throw that out there again so you guys know what you're looking for. Pyro red, and then dragon's breath. So each one of these is about $5. Sometimes they're cheaper, sometimes they're more expensive. I know it's a little bit of an investment, but they go a really, really long way. Like I said, I've had these all for about 2 years. I've been using them all. I'm still on my first batch. So like, they're worth it. Don't use a lot, don't pull out too much. You just want to use just enough. Okay, so I think it's about time to get started painting. If you did Plasti-Dip your helmet, you're ready to go with starting putting down some colors. If you have not Plasti-Dipped your helmet, put the primer on first, let that dry, and then catch back up. All right, everyone, that's Plasti-Dipped your helmet. Let's move. All right, so here we have our helmet. Mine's Plasti-Dipped, it's ready to go. If yours is primed, it's also ready to go. The first thing we want to do is we're going to lay down the Plat-Effect Silver. Now, why am I doing Plat-Effect Silver? Because this one I'm doing is going to be based off the Shin Ichigo costume, not the 2023 one, the one that came out in episode 53 of Kamen Rider, which just celebrated its 51st anniversary. So, happy birthday, Kamen Rider. We're going to be doing Shin Ichigo because it's celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. So this one's going to have the same kind of paint scheme. Silver jaw, silver stripe, mint green metallic on the outside, and some big bright red eyes. So yeah, we're going to put silver down first, and then we're going to be combining this silver with this gunmetal silver, so we could do some more details and darken up some areas. We want to give it like some color, some shading to it. After we've done that, we're going to be combining this green with some of this silver to make this kind of a green that we need. So I'm going to get this really nice up and close for all of you, and this is the reason why I'm turning off the green screen for this. It's so then you guys can kind of get an idea of what this color looks like too. It has a lot of shine to it, but it also has a slight green to it. So I don't really want to do a dark hunter green because I really want this one to be Ichigo. I do plan on making a couple of Nigo helmets in the future, but for right now, I really want to just have a regular Shin Ichigo. I have an extra helmet too. We're going to focus on doing something with that a little bit later. So yeah, let's go ahead and get this going. I'm going to get my brushes. I'm going to use some simple 1-inch or 1/2 inch brushes. I like these kind right here. They're colorful, they're cheap, they're really, really smooth. I like them a lot. Like I said, just get them damp. You don't want them absolutely dripping. What I mean is just get some water, dip it in, find your paper towel, rub the excess off. 4 is our usual really good number. It should be just damp. It should just leave a little bit of wetness on your finger. You want only that much, and then it's enough to help press the paint and smoothly drop it back off. It's like a layer to separate the bristles from the paint itself. You can dry brush this if you want to, but I don't really recommend dry brushing. Dry brushing can be a little bit too much. You can use way too much paint. If you use just like the damp brush, you can end up spreading that way further. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop just the silver onto my plate right here, and we're gonna go ahead and get started with the large brush. So your mission right now is to cover this whole helmet in silver, just the bright silver. I think this one right here is chainmail. Yeah, we're using chainmail. Okay, so I got my silver on here. I left like a little bit more than I usually would, but that's because I'm gonna be using a lot of silver in this project. Whatever's leftover excess might end up becoming what I use to mix in with the green. But right now, all we're trying to do is just cover this whole helmet in silver. So here we go. Got my brush slightly damp. Got a little bit of the paint, trying to get a nice even amount on both sides. And I'm gonna start right in the middle. Nice strokes going straight down. Now we're gonna have to do a couple layers of the silver. I know it's kind of crazy using black as a base coat for this. I would usually use white, but white Plasti-Dip and me just don't mix very well. So I'm using silver. And it's okay to leave some brush strokes on this. You're gonna have to do a few layers. That's just the way it's gonna be. And that's okay. But yeah, try to get this covering as much as you can. This first layer, you just want to get coverage.
We'll get back to crafting soon, but first let's talk about Suit Up's very first sponsor, Surfshark. Have you ever logged into a public Wi-Fi and like kind of got a creeping suspicion that somebody was watching your stuff?
Well, maybe you weren't entirely wrong. Did you know that 1 in 6 people have had online internet security breaches in the last year alone? But it's not limited to public Wi-Fi either. It can happen at work or at home, or maybe even at your favorite coffee shop down the road. One of the best ways to defend yourself is with a VPN. And I've used a couple before, but the best one I've used so far is Surfshark. It's fast, simple, and very easy to use, and it's the only VPN service to offer multiple connections across unlimited devices. So if you have a household with many different devices, Surfshark's great for you. I use Surfshark across all of my devices when I was out and about at my new job while trying to research all the stuff I needed to do for this video. It helped me find all these great articles and reference images for the projects we're working on today. With Surfshark, your IP address stays hidden. You can block ads, trackers, malware, and phishing attempts. You can do so much more, all while protecting your personal data. You can easily log into a foreign version of Netflix or even HBO Max. Plus, if you're outside the United States, you can access some services only available inside the United States. It's a great service for expats looking to catch up on their favorite shows from home. Depending on your region, with Surfshark, you can get cheaper flights, cheaper hotel rates, or maybe even cheaper car rentals. You can also avoid country internet blockades. How do you think I got my Toy Tokusatsu fan club membership? Surfshark! And a Japanese bank account. That's besides the point. Anyways, look, today Surfshark and TheNextDecade are here to offer you a megalodon-sized deal.
We are offering an absurd 82% off Surfshark's 2-year plan, plus an additional 2 months for free. That's less than $250 a month, or less than $30 a year. Along with bigger savings, Surfshark offers more than the competition. Unlimited devices, 2-factor authentication, ad blocking, and more. Keep your data safe, protect all of your devices, enjoy an open internet, and spit in the face of people like Ajit Pai. Secure your platform, secure your digital life, protect yourself today by securing this deal from Surfshark and TheNextDecade. Check the description down below, or check out thenextdecade.co for more information. Thank you, Surfshark, for being our first sponsor. Now, let's get back to crafting.
So something I noticed, this is not laying down the way it should. It's okay. It's still doing everything I need it to. It's laying down a little bit weird. The reason being is that I haven't shaken my paint. If you haven't used this stuff in a while, shake it. It's been a few months, so I haven't shaken it. So shake it. Get some ASMR goopiness there for you. Can't wait to see how many people drop out of the video after hearing this. That's what good mac and cheese sounds like. I love how I almost said it. That's what it smells like. It's just gross. Anyways. Okay, so we got the first layer, and the first layer is dried. Now we need to do a few more. I brought it really close so you could see there are a lot of brush strokes on it. That's okay. This is the first layer. If you have the primer on there, I would also recommend using like a coat of white first. This would make the silver stick out a lot more. Unfortunately, I don't have any white sitting around, so the best I could do is the silver as is. So I'm probably gonna end up doing 2 or 3 more coats like this. I did use my heat gun to dry some of this a little bit quicker. Now, my heat gun is really cool in the sense that it can be, you can change the temperature on it. Usually when I'm using this on the foam, it's like 520 degrees. If you're using it to dry paint, I would keep it under 150. So like in between 120 and 140 is a good middle ground. Don't leave it under too long. Just gently wave over it and it should dry the paint a little bit quicker. It still will be tacky to the touch. That's okay. It's totally fine for it to be tacky to the touch. We're gonna be putting a few more layers on this. That will also be tacky to the touch too. Once we're all done painting, like absolutely done painting on this today, you're gonna wanna let this sit for a day or 2 so it can completely dry out. I recommend letting it dry in a really nice warm place. Try to keep under 150. 120, 140 is a sweet spot. So yeah, I'm gonna do a couple more layers of this. I suggest you do the same. So here I go. Catch you in a few more minutes when this is painted up better. Just if you need to know what to do, in case you haven't figured it out at this point, just go back the last 5 minutes and watch that part like 2 or 3 more times. Okay, cool. When you see me again, we will start moving on to actually making and mixing the green paints. Here we go. Okay, so I have the second coat on the outside of the helmet, but the strip in the center, along with the teeth in the front,
I've put on 3 coats of that, and that looks like it's nearly perfect. So we're gonna leave that as is. These sides and the bottom, I need to give 1 more coat, so I'm gonna do that real fast. I'm gonna hit it with the heat gun to where it all starts to solidify a little bit more, and then we're finally gonna start working on the green paint. So hang in there, folks. We're almost there. Hey there, I actually forgot to mention something, and I think this is pretty important. So on the back of the teeth, these top crusher parts. Now, if you want to glue your jaw onto here, you want to put a piece of tape back here before you even Plasti-Dip or paint, just so then you have something safe to glue this to. I'm not doing that on mine because I'm doing something special with my jaw piece. But if you're one of the people that just wants to do a full helmet and you think you can slip your head in without anything else, and you want to just have that jaw glued on in there, yeah. Do that first, or, you know, leave space and then you can glue it on after. Also, just in one more thing, because it's going to be important when we put the eyes in, I'm going to try to make it to where y'all can see. On the inside of these eye pieces, right here, on the inside of these eyes, try to leave some space completely open, because our eyes are going to be glued in right there, and some other stuff too. So, yeah, I'm going to keep finishing painting this up. We're almost on to the green stuff. Okay, so this is as far as I want it to go. We have the center focused on the most, along with the crusher, because those parts are actually silver. Now we have these silver base coats. It's all dry. I'm going to now start mixing some of this green with the same silver that we were using as a base coat for this. Now, we're going to use 3 parts of this to 1 part of this. We are trying to achieve a nice kind of light mint color. We want just enough green to match around this. Also, I would strongly suggest that you get a smaller brush. You're going to be using this only for 2 specific things. I'm going to show you those real quick. Once we have the green mixed up, instead of masking, like if you are comfortable with doing this, go ahead and do this. If not, I recommend that you wait for this to dry for a day or 2. I'd probably a day would probably be enough, or even 12 hours. But I would recommend taking masking tape and covering up all the parts that are supposed to be silver. If you are really uncomfortable with how you paint and you really want to make sure that this silver stays nice, mask it off with some painter's tape, some paper towels, and newspaper. You know, so you don't have to keep wasting tape. You can just tape off that spot, cover it up, tape doing those other extra spots, and then you know. But what I'm gonna do with this little brush, and if you're comfortable with doing this, I'm just gonna very carefully paint an outline and get like 3 or 4 layers of it down. Make sure it's really nice, a really good outline that covers all the parts that are next to the silver. Doing my best not to touch the silver. Good news is that we can go back over with more silver later to cover it up if we need to. But we're going to be using that green and trying to make a line so then we know when we're doing the complete painting not to pass that line. And also that line's going to be a nice gauge to remember like what the color is supposed to be. You're going to have to do this a couple of times. You're going to be going through it a lot. I thought I was only going to need like a little bit of this paint. I ended up needing quite a bit of it for this spot. So yeah, hang in there. We're going to mix this up real quick. I'm going to show you what my result is here in a sec. You want to mix this to where it's completely uniform. You don't want to see any silver or any just green. You want to get a good mix of all of it. All right, so I lightened it up. I think this is going to be a really good color. I think maybe 1 or 2 coats should be enough, so I'm going to do my best to make this as good as possible. I'm going to go ahead and let this brush go ahead and soak in the water because we're not going to need it for a little bit. I'm going to dip this one in some water. We're going to dip it in this, and we're going to start outlining one side at a time. Yeah. All right, yeah. Yeah. All right, good luck. Okay. So now I have most of the color that I want there on there. I'm gonna start working on the rest of it. And then we're gonna slowly but surely start filling all this in with green. And then once this side is done, we're gonna start working on the other side. So I'm gonna get the bigger brush out. We're gonna start finishing this up. All right, here we go. All right, check that out. So I got a few layers of green on there now. I'm gonna go ahead and start working on the other side, and then we're gonna start working on touching up some stuff. So I'm gonna take the small brush and I'm just gonna get near all the silver parts, not actually trying to get onto the silver that I wanna keep silver. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to be using this darker paint right here to help highlight some of the stuff on the front crusher. Clean off my brush real fast. All right. Try to get as much of that green off there because I really don't want to use this if it's going to have a bunch of green still stuck on it. I really don't want to mix this up with the green too much, if at all. All right, I really don't feel like I need that much, so I'm just gonna use what's inside the cap. I'm just gonna be working on the front crusher, nowhere else. And I'm gonna be wiping this back up again right away with a piece of paper towel, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab that and get that ready. Don't need a lot, just a little bit. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna highlight all this area that I feathered with the teeth. I'm not going much past the area where I started feathering. I'm not going to do a lot, just enough, and then after I'm done doing this, I'm going to wipe it all away, and we're going to keep doing it a couple little bits layer by layer. And it should hopefully leave somewhat of a shadow mark when we are done with it. Alright, now I'm going to wipe it all away real quick. Alright. Now, I'm going to use this a little bit more. I'm going to get right under this big top tooth part. Do the exact same thing. Get a little bit of darkness in there. I'm going to go back one more time with just a little bit more paint. Through. All right, I'm gonna put this brush down. I'll wipe away this excess. There we go. All right, so hopefully you can see there's a little bit of darkness there, and you can start to see that teeth sticking out just a wee bit more. All right, so I'm gonna let this sit here for a little while. I'm gonna let it dry. I'm gonna let it dry for like maybe another hour or two, just so that I feel a little bit more comfortable working the plastic, or not the plastic, working the foam, because when we add in the plastic parts, we're gonna have to bend this around a little bit, and you don't really want it super tacky. So right now, yeah, that's a little bit tacky. It's not taking fingerprints, but it's still tacky. So just let's let it dry for a little bit. In the meantime, you need to go acquire some 2-liter soda bottles. Make sure they are regular style soda bottles, nothing too crazy. If you can get them in red, that's awesome. But if you can't find red, pink works okay too. If you can't find pink, clear will be just fine. I got the cheapest 2-liter bottles of soda I could. I dumped out the horrible, horrible high fructose corn syrup soda. If it's all pure cane sugar soda, enjoy that. Have that. Why not? But if it's a high fructose one, go ahead and dump it. And make sure the bottle is a normal size one like this. Coca-Cola ones have changed their design. They're not very good for this. Get one that's a standard 2-liter bottle. We're going to do some things to this here in a little bit. And if you really want to make sure you're going to be safe about it, get yourself 2. And if you're really nervous about it, get yourself 8 like I did. Yeah, I've had a history of this working, and I've had a history of this not working, so we'll see how it goes. Go dump out those soda bottles, go clean them out really, really good, pull off the labels, and get yourself some blue painter's tape, because it's time to start getting these eyes taken care of.
Thank you so much for watching. I totally didn't forget to shoot an outro for this episode. Oh no, there's totally no way I would do that. At this point, you should have most of the helmet painted, and you should be ready to start putting those eyepieces in and putting in some antenna. So go ahead and place an order for those antenna pieces. They look like this. So yeah, go ahead and go find them. And go find some soda bottles that you can use. Also, one other thing you're gonna need is some foam mesh cupboard liner. You can find it at places like Walmart for really cheap. It comes in a roll, looks like little squares of EVA foam all put together with little holes in it. There should be a picture of that up there too. I'll see you guys here next time for the last part of the Kamen Rider helmet. Yeah, I've been talking too long. Man, I feel really flat. I must have lost weight. Y'all see this? Hey, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell to stay up to date on when the next episode is posted. Also, we now have membership options for anyone who is interested in sneak peeks for upcoming videos, behind the scenes, and some early pattern. We're also playing with the idea of bringing back streams for members only. If any of that sounds up your alley, click those buttons down below. Also, if you're following along at home, be sure to show us your progress. Use #SuitUp on social media. We may feature your work on the show. See you next time!